except for this.
Oh.
Little,
How cool is this mask? My mom got it for me for Christmas. It's my favorite. Hey everybody, thanks President Debbie. Want to start by welcoming our guests. Want to welcome Jim White's family. He's got 5 or 6 here with us, so welcome White family. And then some birthdays. Please join me wishing a happy birthday to Jim Warner and Tom Crane today and later this week. Some announcements. Our next virtual happy hour will be next week, Wednesday, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. This will not be a hybrid happy hour. It will be entirely on Zoom. So we look forward to having you join us next week on 5:30. The Zoom link will be provided in our Tuesday meeting email. As you may know, snow is in the forecast this weekend, which could impact our Cherry Creek Trail cleanup on April 17th. Denver Parks and Rec will inform our chair, Andrew Walker, 24 to 48 hours in advance if it needs to be canceled due to inclement weather. Those who are registered, please be on the lookout tomorrow for an email from Andrew confirming or canceling the event. Have you registered for the 2021 district conference? If you did, perhaps you chose to attend virtually to prevent taking one of the limited in-person spots from a fellow Rotarian. If this is the case for you and you would like to and feel comfortable attending in person, we urge you to change your reservation by next Friday to attend in person. The district is at less than half of the in-person capacity, and if they don't fill the majority of these spaces by next Friday, April 23rd, it's possible the conference would have to go virtual only. Information to register and change your registration will be in the meeting recap email later today. Finally, save the date for our next hybrid meeting on Thursday, May 6th. Our speaker will be Michelangelo Caruso, who's a communications consultant, professional speaker, author, and Rotarian. The program is titled Psychology of Persuasion, and reservations will be required. That is all from me. I'm going to hand it back to President Debbie for our next speaker.
Thank you, Troy. Well, it's an honor to welcome Bill White to our meeting today. Bill White is here to present the Ed Bemis Communications Award. Bemis is my home library, so it just means a lot to me to have Bill here. So I'd like to introduce him to the podium.
Thank you so much. I'm here from the Littleton Rotary Club, and I'm here to present the 1920 Edwin A. Bemis Award. It's kind of funny because it's 21 now, but it's taken this long to kind of get everybody together, and it's great to see people back in person. The Bemis Award is named for Edwin A. Bemis. He was a longtime editor, publisher of the Littleton Independent newspaper. He was a founding member of the Rotary Club of Littleton. He was club president in 1932, district governor in 1943 and 44. In 1955, he developed a training bulletin mailed each month to all the clubs for their newsletter editors called the Editarian. In 1955, Rotary International adopted Editarian as the official name of club bulletins. So the award has since been changed from Best Newsletter to Best Club Communications. So needless to say that you guys do a great job, and we enjoy a lot of your communications. So the Rotary Club of Littleton is proud to present the award to the Rotary Club of Denver, Editarian Ian Campbell, in recognition of outstanding communications to club members and the community. So I'd like to present this award to Ian. Well done, Ian. Very good. We all enjoy it. Thank you so much.
I'm also very honored to introduce Jim Mack to the podium. Jim is past club and Denver Rotary Club Foundation president. He's also our Memorial Resolutions chair, and he's the president of MTech Ventures. So please join me in welcoming him for the Lee White Memorial Resolution.
Before I start, I would like to just say that this resolution was written by Carolyn Smith. And unfortunately, she couldn't make it today, so I'm kind of filling in for her. Fellow Rotarians and guests, we have lost a loyal member of the Denver Rotary Club. We pause today in memory of our friend and fellow Rotarian, Leila Holman White. Lee died after a fall at home on March 3rd, 2020, with her devoted family gathered around. Lee was the youngest of 4 daughters, born to Lee and Irene Holman in Denver on June 15th, 1944. Her father, also Lee, had immigrated from France to become a businessman and restaurateur in Denver. Lee was a mountain girl. When she was 5, her dad purchased a cabin on 13 acres in the foothills west of Denver. So that Lee could get to school and see her friends, her parents bought her a horse, Prince. Her parents fostered the independence that characterized her life and created the strong character that we came to know and love. Lee attended the one-room school near home until Ralston Elementary was completed in 1955. At age 10, she rode the 3 miles to the new school. Prince was content during the day in the corral built by the school for the horses of many of the young students. Lee went on to Golden High School and Colorado Women's College, where she studied business and business law. Lee met Jim White, the man who became her husband, in the summer of 1959 at a party in the mountains near her home. She was only 14, but even at a young age, she decided that she would be Mrs. Jim White someday. Sure enough, while still college students, they were married 5 years later on August 31st, 1963. Jim completed his degree as an engineer at Colorado School of Mines, and Lee finished her Associate's in Arts degree at CWC while still newlyweds. They moved often those first post-college years after Jim joined Shell Oil Company and then served as an officer in the Army Corps of Engineers. Her twin sons, Scott and Eric, were born in Fort Belvoir, Virginia in 1966. The family returned to Denver in 1968. Jim resumed his job with Shell for a couple of years until joining his father in the family businesses, Denver Air Machinery Company and Denver Machine Shop, Inc. Lee was recruited to help run those businesses as sales and marketing VP and eventually became Jim's business partner and the co-founder of Denver Machine Shop. Carolyn remembers the considerable pride Lee displayed when introducing her to the shop some years ago. Each of the employees in turn had only praise for her and her importance to the company's success, particularly during the tough times of the 1980s. Lee kept quiet about the constant severe pain she suffered from scoliosis and the surgeries that were the result. She had 17 vertebrae fused in 5 separate operations beginning when she was 30 years old. Somehow she continued the family tradition to cut down their Christmas tree. And she loved hiking and friends and family members despite continuous pain. Typically concerned with others with the same condition rather than herself, she started and continued to lead the support group, People for Scoliosis. Lee was a devoted mother and grandmother. Their daughter Tanya was born in Denver in 1972 on the birthday of her 6-year-old twin brothers. Lee was proud that her 3 children completed college and were married before she was 50 years old. In her latter years, she devoted her love and attention to her 6 grandchildren. JB, Elise, Heather Lee, Kevin, April, and Victoria. They loved her in return. Lee's happiest moments were when the family was all together. To say that Lee was a member of Denver Rotary for 18 years is a bit misleading. She was an active Rotary wife for 30 additional years, attending district and international conventions and joining Jim in his many Rotary fundraising and other club activities. Carolyn introduced Lee to become a member of Denver Rotary in her own right in March of 2001. As a member, she continued her membership for the High School Scholarship Awards, Denver Kids, and she supported students in Rotary Youth Exchange programs. She was a Denver Rotary Club Foundation Fellow and the Rotary Club Paul Harris Fellow +1. We express deepest sympathy to Jim, Eric and Steph, Scott and Laura, Tanya and Eric, and JB, Elise, Heather Lee, Kevin, April, and Victoria. We miss Lee. She brought a special spirit to everything. The day was always brighter for each contact with her. Madam President, I move for the adoption of this memorial resolution for Lee White by a standing vote of the membership and others present. You want me to ring the bell?
Thank you, Jim. Well, Lee is in the house with us today. I happen to know that Tanya has her boots on and I have her shirt on. So it is only appropriate that we segue to this celebration of Jim White's 50-year anniversary. Jim has been with Rotary for 50 years, with perfect attendance. Not only that, but Jim is also a third-generation Rotarian, following in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. Lauren shared with me some of the historical documents, pictures, accolades, and cards that we have regarding Jim. There is so much to say about Jim's Rotary life. You heard a lot about his family from Jim, which was so perfect. And it would not be right or appropriate to dive into Jim's Rotary life without first talking about Jim as a husband and father. Jim's family is at the heart of who he is and what means the most to him. It's an honor to have Eric, Scott, and Tanya with us here today. Eric and Scott continue the legacy of Rotary, making them fourth-generation Rotarians. As you just heard with the Lee White Memorial Resolution, Jim and Lee had a special love and bond. It's the foundation of family that defines Jim. Jim joined Rotary on November 19th, 1970. Think about that. Dues at that time were $58.50 quarterly. His membership application included some things we all know about Jim. Colorado School of Mines graduate, twins, Scott and Eric were also listed on the application, although Tanya in 1970 had not quite been born yet. His hobbies were listed as golf, bowling, and skiing. And 50 years later, he still hits the ski slopes and will be embarking on a Grand Canyon raft trip in a few weeks. When Jim was accepted in the Rotary Club 50 years ago, the Rotary Club of Denver met at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. His welcome letter, penned by George Smith Jr., said, "I have known Jim for over 15 years and have watched him grow from boy to man and know him to be an honest, forthright, and a gentleman, requisites for a good Rotarian." Through the years, Jim has assumed a number of roles on a variety of committees. He remains an extremely active and engaged member. Currently, Jim is serving on the Denver Rotary Club Foundation Board of Trustees, the membership committee, and also is very active in the weekly happy hour hosted these days by Zoom. Further, Jim has been an extremely generous Rotarian in terms of both time and money. Jim serves again on the trustee board. He's also a Denver Rotary Club Foundation Gold Fellow and a Paul Harris Fellow +3, embracing and supporting our two foundations. He also gives of his time and talents. Just 2 weeks ago, Jim was one of the 8 performers in our April Fool's Talent Show. His storytelling skills intertwined with his yo-yo and napkin tricks were a fun addition to the evening. As you look at the pictures of Jim through the years, you can easily say he's not changed much. The mustache of yesterday is gone, but that smile is the same. So is the generosity, kindness, and uniqueness that make Jim such a special Rotarian to each of us. I would like to present, Jim, if you'd come up. Here is Jim's 50-year anniversary pin.
Wow.
Let me read what's inside. Honoring E. James White, 3rd generation Club 31 Rotarian, in recognition of devotion to Rotary and its principles as exemplified by 50 years of membership, the Rotary Club of Denver, 1970 to 2020. +5. Paul is +5. Oh, that's because last year you probably had +3.
And Eric helped me out. Eric donated $1,000.
And here's the photo montage you see on the screen. So this is also a gift for Jim.
Oh, thank you very much.
And we will take photos afterwards of the cake. All right, thank you, Jim, so much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Please join me in a standing ovation for Jim. All right, now it's my pleasure to introduce Rick Leuthold, who will be presenting our speaker. Rick is on Zoom. He's on video. Rick is our meeting and events vice president and incoming board of director. He's also the chairman of Sanderson Stewart. So Rick, I see you. All right,
Yep.
take it away.
Yeah, there we are. Thank you, President Debbie. I appreciate that very much. It's with great pleasure today that I introduce Karen Gerwitz to you. She comes with 30 years of experience in international business as she leads our World Trade Center here in Denver as president of that organization. Many of you may have seen here in the last year or so, the World Trade Center was relocating from downtown to a spot in the Rhino District for a while, and just recently announced that they were no longer pursuing that location. They have pursued a location in the Fox Park neighborhood, and they are looking to grow and expand their presence there. As we've seen in several of our previous presentations, for instance, our aerospace presentations, City of Denver and Colorado in general, it has tremendous impact on the world's international trade, satellites and equipment and materials to take us to Mars. And we also have seen how the trade corridors can be so drastically impacted by things like a ship that sits sideways in the Suez Canal. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you Karen today, and she's going to walk us through several of their things regarding their new location and several of the things that she oversees with the Denver World Trade Center. Thank you very much. And Karen, I'll turn it over to you.
I am so honored to be amongst you all today. You inspire me so much. I've spoken several times here at this Denver Rotary Club, and I am just, each time I come, it reminds me to keep my focus on what's important. And I honor you for your 50 years of service, and so sorry for your loss. I'm emotional because I just lost my father and father-in-law in the last 2 months. So it's tough too. I feel your pain. And it's just what you do is so important for Colorado's connectivity. Our connectivity to the world matters so much that I feel like our missions of the World Trade Center and the Rotary clubs are very aligned. And we're going to talk about that today, but I also must talk to you about the importance of trade, because anytime I get in front of a group of leaders like you, we have to talk about why trade matters. And this is our motto. We are stronger when we trade, and I hope you all agree with that. But I've also am incredibly humbled by who is in the room and on the screen. I see Professor Vednanda, who was one of my heroes, and Judge Brooks, who, I mean, just be standing in front of those two gentlemen alone is daunting for me, because I really do respect them in so many ways. And Young Cho, I've known for many years, and he's invited me to speak in front of this group for so long. So just thank you for reaching out and giving me this opportunity. I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover. Yeah, thanks. Huh. Do I need to turn it on? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I just need to set the stage a little bit for the importance of trade. Many of you, let me just see a show of hands, at least in the room here, of how many have worked in international business. Perfect, so there's several of you, and I'm guessing on the screen, there may be many more. So trade, I think one of the most alarming statistics that I can share with you is that 1 of 5 Colorado jobs are dependent on trade. And so that is incredibly significant for our state, for our economic development, for our economy. If you're in the agriculture community, 1 in 3 acres of our farmland are planted for export. And for manufacturers, you know, half of those manufacturing jobs are dedicated to trade. And so a lot of people don't really see that level of impact. And surprisingly, even in our elections, trade is one of the least, kind of the last on the list of what you're thinking about when you're voting for a new leader, which always astonishes me, because it's such an important aspect of our economy. And when we trade, we're stronger. And so for me, it's something I've been advocating for my entire life since I've been a high school student. So I feel like it's just nice to be in a room of people that hopefully agree. Let's bring it closer to Colorado. We get almost $23 billion of new money into our economy when we export. We export about only $8 or $9 billion of goods. The rest are services. And so that's incredible, because this is new money that we're boosting into our economy when we sell abroad. Now, I would also argue that importers are also adding to our economy. Think of a company like OtterBox that makes the cell phone cover. They're hiring, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people, growing over $1 billion company. They are adding to our economy. So let's not just celebrate exporters. Those that are connecting globally are the most innovative companies. They are diversifying their risks. They have to innovate on a global scale. So we need to celebrate those who do that, take that plunge. It's not easy. And so when they do, I think we should celebrate them. Otherwise, we've had, you know, close to 90,000 people waking up every day to go to work for a foreign-owned company. We have to celebrate foreign direct investment into our state. That's new money into our economy. They're providing great jobs for Coloradans. Of course, our top markets are Canada by far, then Mexico and China. So let's not forget our neighbors and how important they are to boosting our economy. A lot of people think that only large businesses, the Boeings, et cetera, are the ones that are trading. Well, it's not true. Nearly 90%, 87% of our exports are by small to mid-sized companies. That's who the World Trade Center mainly works with and serves. And so it's those small businesses that are really making the gains. I want to talk a little bit about I don't know why this isn't working. Okay, oh, there it goes. Go to the hamburger. Let's all talk about hamburgers. Okay, trade agreements, free trade agreements. So I'm not going to go into a deep economics lesson here of why free trade agreements matter, but they do. Let me tell you why. You look at the world's population, 94% are not in a free trade agreement with the United States. Only 6% of the world's population is in a free trade agreement, yet nearly half of our exports are going to those 6%. So if somebody tells you NAFTA is not a good thing or free trade agreements don't matter, this proves otherwise. Another thing about this is that there are very few actual traders in the United States, even though I've said how much it brings. 95% of the world's population is outside of the United States, yet less than 5% of US companies are actually trading. Why is that? The opportunity is there, it's evident. Why do you think they're not taking advantage? I think that's why we exist. We have to change that statistic. We educate, we inspire, we try to advocate to open up and make it easier, but that's why the World Trade Center exists. Okay, let me also say that when you're in a free trade agreement, this is just, the blue line is when the free trade agreement started, the red line is 5 years later. Trade increases incredibly when it's easier to do so. One story is the Korean free trade agreement. When they became a free trade agreement, I think they were 9th, and the next year they were 5th of our trading partners. So it does matter. President Trump was talking a lot about the trade deficit, and that was the whole premise of getting stronger on trade sanctions and tariffs and the like. But this shows that really the trade deficit is in the manufacturing and oil sectors of our non-free trade agreement partners. Those with free trade agreements, we were running in a surplus. And so again, when you enter into smart and sound free trade agreements, it could be a win-win for all. NAFTA, I have to focus a little bit on NAFTA because that's the one closest to home. It was the largest free trade agreement. It's no longer. But basically, we were trading over $3 billion every day in this trading bloc. I mean, that is an enormous economic engine. It means that we make things together. We make things together like hamburgers. The good old American hamburger is no longer an American hamburger. Without Mexico and Canada, that hamburger is looking pretty boring. It's a North American hamburger, and we should celebrate that fact. And to be honest, even the beef will travel between Canada and Mexico sometimes 9 times before it goes to your plate. From conception to feeding to slaughtering to packaging, that beef, that steak, that hamburger meat is transferring across borders 9 times. You might say, well, that doesn't seem very efficient. It makes sense it wouldn't happen. We specialize in what we specialize in. If we're better at producing something than someone else, we should do it. This is why we import from China. They're better at producing something than we are at a cheaper rate. We will import. It will always work that way. The market will always play itself out. And I think to put on a tariff or making it harder to do business it's not going to change anything if it still makes sense to produce something somewhere else at a cheaper rate, they can produce it better at a cheaper rate. It will happen. The market will play itself out. And I think that's our reality. How do we plug into that system? How do we make that system work for us as opposed to the system against us? That's what I want to talk a little bit about. The USMCA changes that President Trump made were, I think, most notably changing the name to something that's very nationalistic, I think, in my opinion, USMCA. We're first. Well, I can guarantee you that in Canada, they call it Kuzma. And in Mexico, they call it 3 other names. So the NAFTA that we all used to embrace and love and be part of, okay, it wasn't always a love fest, I guarantee it. I was around working in trade when it was just being discussed. Wasn't always a love fest. And it hasn't been winning for everybody. I totally understand that. But for the most part, it was the strongest trading bloc in the world until recently. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But the other things that President Trump did is that he helped make it a little bit easier for documentation between trading in the bloc. So happy about that. He also raised the level of e-commerce, so you're not taxed on small e-commerce trades. The thing, though, that I'm most concerned about are the last 2. That Section 232 tariff is still there, meaning we can still claim tariffs on things like aluminum and steel to say that it's because of our national security that we're doing that. I remind you that these are our 2 strongest allies. I would say we don't need to be claiming national security threats, especially because NORAD here in Colorado Springs is run by a Canadian and the United States. So for me, I always question that logic. That's me. Not trying to create political drama here. I'm looking at policies. That's what I'm looking at, trade policies. And I'm very passionate about trade policy. The other thing that concerns me is sunset clause. Everybody knows what a sunset clause is. In 16 years, NAFTA could go away. And I think we have to watch this. The best thing that President Trump did was no harm with NAFTA. He did no harm. This sunset clause could be harm. So we need to make sure that NAFTA stays and that we continue to strengthen it and make it better to work for us. Other free trade agreements, I just wanted to show, the United States is not at the head of the pack. We're actually far behind when it comes to trade. Look at these other countries that are Chile has more than 60 free trade agreements. Mexico is up there. Europe has nearly 60. We have 20. So are we open? Are we accessible? Are we leading the pack? No. You've probably heard about RCEP, which is the brand new free trade agreement that China's entered with all of the ASEAN countries as well as the Asian Pacific countries. This is now the largest free trade agreement. This means that they have just removed barriers to make trade more prevalent, prominent, to grow that economy, grow the Asian economy. And on the other side, we're pulling out of things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership that would have actually strengthened our position against this bloc. President Trump's plan is here on the screen, and he was successful in this plan. He labeled China as a currency manipulator. He imposed tariffs. He played hard negotiations with China. How did it work? Did it work for us? It's important to know who pays tariffs. The importers pay tariffs, right? But I also mentioned at the beginning, if China is able to produce something at a cheaper rate and better, they're going to do it. That's how the market works. So will tariffs change it? Not necessarily. Does it add a tax onto US companies? It absolutely does. Does it raise the prices of consumer goods? It absolutely does. Is that helpful in a pandemic? I don't know. I don't think so. The other thing is this whole Boeing Airbus dispute that you've read about in the papers. There was a follow-on tariff to go on to European wine, olives, cheese. Who's paying that? Our restaurants that need those goods that are suffering through the pandemic are paying it. I just have to say, I mean, I'm an advocate for free trade. I'm just going to be honest about that. Maybe you know what my colors are, but I'm not trying to be political here. I'm just trying to say free trade agreements and free trade matters. Is it always free and fair? No. Can we work toward that as a world? Yes, we can, and we should. And I think the way we're able to do that is to actually create trading blocks that are multinational in nature. Because when we do that, we raise the stakes of all players. And we want to raise the stakes. We want to raise labor standards. We want to raise environmental standards. The way you do that is to engage, not to pull back. This is my opinion. I hope some of you agree. We've created this, we've got this pandemic now that's facing all of us. And nobody would have wished this on any president or any of us. It's been a very tough year. I'm grateful, by the way, to be in person. So grateful. I'm an extrovert, extreme extrovert. And the fact is my extrovert is wounded. I don't know when it's going to come back totally. It's on crutches, and very happy to be here. This pandemic caused a major shift in trade. You can see that, global trade, even between between quarter one and quarter two last year, was down 15%, down 23% in the UK, down 16% here in the US. China, up. Up. Why is that? They're plugging in. They're getting involved in this economy. They're connecting themselves to other markets. They do it in a unique way. It's not a way that we always like, but they're plugging in and they are making themselves relevant. I think we can learn from China. President Biden's plan, he's got, he's been a little bit not as forward on trade just yet, but he did hire an interesting US trade representative who is going to be tough on China. I think he will remain tough on China, which, in some cases we certainly need, especially for intellectual property protections. But I am also seeing some of his messaging about reshoring and bringing manufacturing back, which if we can do that, great. I think more likely it'll be nearshoring, where we actually bring some manufacturing back to Mexico from Asia. So I think that's going to be the trend, but we'll have to wait to see how this really plays out. There's also been noise of us entering the TPP once again. The Trans-Pacific Partnership was with 12 countries, and we would be, they went ahead without us. I don't know if they're gonna let us back in, but if they do, I think it'd be a gracious move of theirs to do so. I also think the TPP will help us strengthen our trade position in Asia. I want to talk about opportunities, both nationally and locally, because I think even during a pandemic, there are trade opportunities, and we should focus on the opportunity. So I've seen so many companies pivot and create new products in this, personal protective equipment, PPE. I've seen beer companies start making hand sanitizers and just like incredible pivots. So businesses are opportunistic and they're going to grab onto the opportunity. And I think a pandemic allows us to innovate and see how can we make a difference in the world. So I am excited about that pivot. We also have supply chain resiliency. People are working on that. That's more important now than anything, because we had supply chain challenges with the pandemic and the Suez Canal and other things that we've already talked about. So to find ways to duplicate your supply chain or have multiple sources that you're not only relying on one, especially when it comes to medical equipment that we need during pandemic. So you need to bring some of that supply chain maybe closer to home, or duplicate your supply chain in a way so that you're getting vendors to supply different aspects. You're not reliant on any one source. That's something that I think we need to do more about. I've talked about reshoring and RCEP. I think the next free trade agreements we'll probably be looking at is the UK and also the EU. I think those are naturals. I think we should absolutely enter into free trade agreements there. Let's talk about Colorado. We all care about Colorado. Service exports really is our strength. And so what else can we do for our engineers, our tech firms, our educators, our tourism folks that are bringing international visitors here? All of those are service exports. And so how can we even strengthen that more? That's what we should be working on. Innovation, R&D, new technologies, the digital trade, digital globalization, trade of data, trade of ideas. This is where Colorado shines, and I think we need to spend a lot of more effort there. Matter of fact, our upcoming conference is focusing on that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Denver International Airport has done a great job in bringing in new international flights, and every time you do that, trade goes up with that country. So those international flights are critical for us. The World Trade Center works with the city of Denver on something called the Global Landing Pad. And we are helping international entrepreneurs that are looking to have an operation here in Denver as they're US based. We're actually helping them do that because entrepreneur grows into a larger international company. And so whatever we can do to make their landing a soft landing here, we're going to do that. And so we're spending a lot of time with that. I'm also working on a program right now where we're teaching immigrants and refugees, entrepreneurs here in Colorado on building their first ever business for the most part, but it's trading in nature with their home countries. It is the most rewarding thing, hands down, I've ever worked on. To see the hunger and drive from our immigrant community want to create a business that makes a difference and helps their community back home, it's the right thing to do. And it's what we're doing every day. We've got about 50 clients that fit that bill right now. We also are kicking off our Global Trade Activator, which is our version of an accelerator. It's helping companies scale globally in about 4 months. You might say, oh my God, how do you do that? We're working with companies that have a successful domestic business. We're working with them on a weekly basis, teaching them all that we know, bringing all of our tools from our tool basket, our coaches, our consultants, our vendors, all of our training, which is online. We're meeting with them, bringing all of those tools on their schedule and at wherever they are. We're meeting them where they are, helping them build a strategy and execute on a global business launch. 5 minutes, thanks. So it's exciting to help Colorado companies scale globally. What I can't do is help them think globally, which is what your job is. So help me figure out how to get Colorado companies thinking globally, because they don't always do it. I know you do. And so we need to carry the message further to try to grow more thinkers so that they see the opportunity here. Remember, 95% of the population's outside this country. We're not tapping it. All right, I want to tell you a little bit about us. Got 5 minutes left. The World Trade Center is a nonprofit, and we've been around 33 years in Denver. Founded by the Metro State University Foundation. They bought the license from New York. There can only be one World Trade Center in any city. There are 320 World Trade Centers around the world in 100 countries, making us the largest trade association in the world. We're very much an association. We work with our colleagues on a regular basis throughout the world. We help our 1 million companies that are part of us get connected through our network. Our purpose is much more altruistic than just moving exports and imports. We really think that trade is good for Colorado. It's the thing that helps with alleviate poverty. We think it boosts human civilization, innovation, understanding, cultural sensitivity. All of that happens through trade. Our mission is simply help Colorado companies succeed globally. Whatever that is, if they want to set up operations, if they want to import, if they want to export, if they want to hire somebody, we're going to try to help them. That's our mission. We do this through a number of ways. We have training, very strong training. Our foundation was based on training with the Mentor State Foundation. So we offer about 60, 70 classes throughout the year on trade. We offer a certificate of international trade, so you can get certified and know every aspect of trade. Our accelerator that I told you through, we're bringing all of our training to them on their time. That's really our foundation. It's our core competency. Our global and local network, I've already told you about our 320 World Trade Centers around the world. We also have about 350 corporate members that are part of us locally. We invite you to become that, be part of our organization. We focus solely on international business. That's all we ever talk about. Curated business solutions. So not only are we doing this accelerator and the training, but we also offer consulting services for our members and for the companies that we work with. So we're helping them solve supply chain issues, build a compliance program so they don't get major fines, find new markets, develop the strategy, find new partners. This is the kind of thing we do in our consulting services. Dedicated personal guide. So not only the staff of the World Trade Center are knowledgeable about trade, but our community, we pull in our community to support the companies. We have 40 coaches that help companies trade. If you know how to do international business, I invite you to be a coach. We need it. We have 50 immigrants looking to do this for the first time. Need your help. For sure, we need your help. We're all about community. Our biggest conference of the year is coming up, World Trade Day. It is the 48th annual event, and digital globalization is our theme. So I encourage you to sign up for this. It's all going to be virtual this year. But it's very exciting for us. We have 2 keynote speakers, one from Zoom, one from Google. So we're really, really trying to carry out the theme. This is our vision, and we're going to lead into the real estate project that was made in the introduction. So we definitely want to strengthen Colorado's connectivity internationally, and we want to focus on doing that one neighborhood at a time. And the neighborhood we've chosen, is Fox Park. This is the rendering of what we're building, and we're going to be the namesake tenant. We are not the developer. We're not going to own the building. Just want to make sure that that's clear. We are the namesake tenant. We're going to sublicense the World Trade Center name so that it will be located right here on this building called World Trade Center, and it's going to anchor this 41-acre project, which is where the former Denver Post printing press was, right at I-70 and I-25. It's a prime location. It's just off the 41st and Fox train stop, and so it's very central. You can see all of Denver from here because it's on a hill, and it is stunning. But you have to envision it like this, not what it is today. It's like a blighted island today. This is what the World Trade Center will look like. Activity, international connectivity, creating a center, a hub for international connections, whether it's foreign investment into Denver or helping Colorado companies expand globally. Immigrants have a place there. We just want to create this new, vibrant international center. And we're basically going to have everything from international restaurants to retail and cultural facilities. There's a performing arts complex there where we'll be featuring different cultural performances. Time to go? Okay, let me just wrap up here. So the kinds of things that we'll be offering in this campus for uses. So very excited about this. It should open up probably early 2023. So we're going to be breaking ground here pretty soon. The developers are from Mexico City. They're very globally minded. They had this vision before we entered the picture. Isn't that great? Okay, this is another view of it, but very exciting indeed that we will be looking for tenants to join us who have that global connection, global mindedness. That's pretty much what I wanted to share. This is how to get in touch with me. I hope you'll consider joining the World Trade Center. I hope the Rotary Club and the World Trade Center might consider ways to partner on things together. I'm honored to be asked back again and would welcome the opportunity really at any time. Anytime you ask, the answer is yes. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Karen. I do have a couple questions that came in by Zoom. So what if you come up and join me here? I'll read them and then I'll have you speak. And then we might do some closing comments, but then we'll take questions from the room. How's that sound? So a couple of thank yous for the presentation and the important work you do. A bravo from VED. Comment on the growth and prospects for increased international trade in an increasingly competitive and sometimes adversarial international political environment.
I think that's why it's so complicated. This isn't easy to do. And yes, it is adversarial and we're never going to get along with everyone. Free trade might sound altruistic, but I think we can move toward it where possible. So I do think that, you know, it takes groups like us, Rotary and us, to help companies think bigger than today's challenge. Maybe the strategy of entering a new market needs to be which one has a rule of law that matches the one I'm most comfortable with, or which one has an ease of regulatory burden that I'm not willing to swallow right now. You have to think about this strategically. You cannot chase a sale. And most companies, in our opinion, 80% of the companies we help have chased a sale because they met a guy at a trade show that they hit it off with, who's now their exclusive distributor, selling deep into Russia. And the market made 0 cents for their product. And so chasing a sale is not the way to take on international business. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I got my message out.
Does WTC have a governmental advocacy role at international, national, state, and local levels? If so, what does WTC do?
Does WTC have an advocacy role at the various levels? We do. We have a trade policy committee. We welcome more voices on that committee. But we look at state level. A lot of our legislators are trying to do the right thing by running a Buy Colorado campaign, Buy Local campaign. Or maybe they're giving favorable rights to Colorado domiciled companies. What that does, it sends a clear message to Californian companies, we don't want your investment. It also sends a clear message to Canadian companies, we don't want your investment. I don't think we should do that. We would advocate against bills like that. We also, of course, are favorable to free trade agreements, and we do involve our congressional delegation. A lot of our congressional delegation is aligned with us. We often align with different chambers of commerce. We're all similarly aligned when it comes to trade. So pretty easy topic to advocate for because it makes economic sense. So I hope that helps. Any other questions that you all have in the room?
Let's do that after.
Oh, my apologies.
That's okay. We'll just do a quick wrap up. All right. Thank you so much. In honor of you speaking with us today, we are making a donation to Polio Plus. It is Rotary International's goal to eradicate polio in the world. With the Bill and Melinda Gates match, we will inoculate 100 children.
Oh, so amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I lived in Ghana and experienced polio there, like saw it around me. So you have no idea how much this means to me. Thank you very much.
All right, so next week's program will be Zoom, Denver Kids Graduation. We will be trying something a little different since it's by Zoom, so please join us. Karen, you are always welcome back, and I plan on being at your May event, so thank you so much. And if you will join me in the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? So our official part of the meeting is adjourned. If you have to leave, please do. But if you can stay and have questions, please do that as well. Thank you.